face by a business who fears that they may be subject to an action from an employee who may become ill as a result of COVID and may seek to bring an action against that employer on the basis that they did not put a mandatory requirement on that workplace. Now, what this relates to is workplace health and safety laws that exist at a state level. And I was able to advise that the advice I have received is that workplace health and safety regulators in the states can provide a statement of regulation intent that a business that does not mandate is not in breach of workplace health and safety laws. So a protection can be provided to businesses through that process that may be concerned that by not putting in a mandatory requirement that they might otherwise be liable for any action that might be brought against them. Now, that's an understandable point that business is making. We don't have a mandatory vaccination program. It's free and it's not mandatory. Businesses are encouraging their employees all around the country to get vaccinated, as they should, as the government is, as all governments are. But the issue of mandatory vaccinations have been put in place in a very select group of sectors. The quarantine workers. I can update you today that we've had the public health orders in both South Australia and Western Australia for aged care workers. All other states and territories gave us an update on that, and they're proceeding with their public health orders in relation to aged care workers. That's a very specific group within the community that is dealing with very vulnerable Australians. That's understandable. And that's where the public health orders have been applied. In New South Wales right now, Premier advises that there is that public health order that relates to construction workers in those most affected areas, and that's entirely reasonable and sensible in the circumstances. But outside of that, we're not running a mandatory vaccination program, and it's also not reasonable that an employer may feel they have to put some sort of mandate in place to protect themselves potentially from some state-based workplace health and safety laws. So I think that's a very practical way to deal with this issue, and so premiers and chief ministers will of course consult with their own regulators, but the issue is with those state-based laws, and so that's where the remedy can be provided.